Hey everyone, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over some mid-season predictions for who we think might win the awards. Kind of a lot to choose from, but let's get right into it. So Blake, who do you have as your MVP?
So there's been a lot of really good players, obviously. You got guys like Tua, Tyreek, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts should be up there too. I'm gonna go with Tua, though.
Okay.
I feel like everybody's gonna go with either Mahomes or Jalen Hurts. But I mean, if you look at Tua's stats in the games that he hasn't died in, he's undefeated. He's got 101,000. He's got 1,980 passing yards. He's got 15 touchdowns and only 3 picks. He's first in QBR and passer rating. So I think with the amount of doubt that has been around him his entire career,
hmm
for him to come out and ball like this is pretty, incredible.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. To be honest, I think the only reason why I could see him maybe not getting it is just because I know the selection committee can sometimes give people a little bit of a hard time if they missed a few games. But honestly, his stats are right there with everyone else. So who knows?
And it's not like he missed, 7 games. How many games was he at? Two, three,
No.
three and a half?
Well, what was it? So he went out in the middle of one game, then he missed the next week. I want to say he missed two games after that. So really like two and a half, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. So he didn't miss an insurmountable amount. I think he was ranked like sixth in passing yards, or maybe top five. But for being
It's
out for
definitely a
2 games,
possibility.
yeah.
As long as he stays healthy and if he keeps on putting up the numbers, I think that's not a hot take.
Hmm.
And it's honestly all the more impressive that he can miss games and still be an MVP candidate. That just kind of speaks to the season that he's
Yeah.
having. Um, so I went a little bit more basic here because I just went with my gut. I think Jalen Hurts right now is who I would pick as MVP. It's kind of one of those things where I'm picking these based on what I think and also kind of how the selection committee tends to think and lean on these certain things. Being the head of an undefeated Eagles team that frankly is looking like with the schedule they have ahead of them that they're maybe going to lose 2 games max this year. I just feel like with the way that he's performing, 2,000 plus yards, 12 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, less touchdowns than some of the other QBs, better touchdown interception ratio, which as a Packer fan I love.
Hmm.
I definitely just feel like he is really taking off this year. I thought he'd take off this year, maybe not to this extent. I mean, I don't think anybody thought the Eagles would be
Yeah.
this good this year. But I just feel like right now, with the way things are going and the way that the Eagles' trajectory is, I feel like it's not a lock for him, but I feel like he's right at the front.
Yeah, I feel like it's pretty much the top four that I said. Jalen Hurts, Tua, Tyreek is even in there. I can almost guarantee you that he won't, even though he should. Like
MVP is just another name for
for
quarterback.
best quarterback, yeah.
Yeah. Mahomes is always in there.
I threw him in there too, just because he's always doing Mahomes type shit.
Right. I almost feel bad for Mahomes because he's going to start getting the LeBron James treatment. And I know you don't watch basketball, but it's like LeBron for a long time was just always the best player in the league. But people kind of just take it for granted. And just because he is the best player, they almost overlook it. So it's like, Mahomes could probably win MVP just about every year, but he's not because people are more interested in the new up and comers instead of the same guy doing the same MVP type stuff every year. I think Mahomes is finally kind of getting that LeBron James treatment for
Yeah.
better or worse.
So moving on to offensive player of the year, this basically goes to the best player not who's not a quarterback. I pretty much already stated mine, Tyreek Hill. Like he's got 78 catches already, 76 catches on the season already, which I thought that was a typo when I looked it up on the stat sheet. I'm like, am I on the wrong year? Is that his
Dude, he's going nuts.
76 catches already in week 9?
My offensive player of the year is also Tyreek. He's the first player, and not even the first player. They started tracking stats of average yards per catch or whatever in 2007. Since they started tracking that, not one player has gotten to 4.0, like 4 yards per average, like yards after catch. Tyreek Hill is the first player to get to that point. I think the highest before him was like 3.6 yards after the catch. He's averaging 4 yards after the catch, which honestly is something that is unheard of in the stat era.
Hmm.
He's having an insane year. He's not missing a beat without Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, Tyreek Hill is a dog, man.
Yeah. Some of the other guys I was taking into consideration was Derrick Henry, who leads the league in rushing, and Nick Chubb, who's right behind him.
Derrick Henry, man, that's another guy that's going to start getting this LeBron James type of treatment. You know, he's going to, for as long as he's healthy, he's going to come in every year, do King Henry type stuff, and people are just going to overlook it because they're going to be like, man, that's King Henry. That's what he does. It's like
Yeah.
players like that have to go to the like next level. They have to like exceed even where they're at, and it's like it's kind of unfair.
Yeah, another 2,000-yard season or even 1,900-yard season for Derrick Henry. I think then people will start to know. But if he gets 1,600 or 1,700 yards, people are like, that's an average Derrick Henry season.
Yeah, it's Derrick Henry. What do you expect? It's like, dude, he's still a guy out there doing this. It's like like, but no, yeah, Tyreek Hill, maniac this year. So defensive player of the year, kind of basic here as well, to be quite honest with you. Rolling with my beginning of the season pick as well, it's Micah Parsons. I just feel like right now there's really no one else in the league, maybe outside of Aaron Donald, that people are so truly afraid of as an offensive lineman that has to block somebody. He has the best pass rush win rate in the league at 32.4%. He also has 8 sacks, which, you know, isn't good, isn't bad. You know,
he's also been I think he's missed a game, and he's been they had him on a snap count, I think, for at least the Bears game when the Bears played Dallas. He didn't play the entire game.
I think if you're really just looking at the season as a whole, it feels like Micah Parsons is the defensive player of the year at this point. What are your thoughts?
I do think he's got competition, because I didn't pick Micah Parsons. I looked at him for sure, because you have to look at this guy. Right. But I had Zadarius Smith was a consideration too, which I'm sure you're probably a little bit salty on, but he's been having a hell of a year. But I actually went with Matt Judon. Judon leads the league in sacks with 11.5, and like you said, Parsons has 8, so he edges out Parsons right there. He's got 35 total tackles. Parsons has 36, but that's kind of like, it's not a vast, you know, difference. And he's got 10 TFLs to Micah Parsons' 8. And I just think, and you could say Parsons gets the LeBron treatment too. Like, he's had such an astounding rookie season that we're kind of like, okay, well, that's an average year for him, which is crazy to think that a guy who's in his second year is already getting that kind of treatment. But he kind of is. And I just think Judon has been better, if not on par, you know, with Micah Parsons, and Parsons will probably get it, but I think Judon deserves his share in the spotlight too. So I pick Matt Judon.
Well, and you made a good point. I mean, you know, and at the end of the day, that's the weird part about the selection committee. You know, is like, what are they truly going to pick? If they're going to go stats, I think he might have a good chance, but I just feel like notoriety is another thing that they try to like mix into that pot of selecting who they pick, and I don't know. It's definitely going to come down to the wire, though.
So for offensive rookie, who did you have?
I have Chris Olave, wide receiver for the Saints. Yeah. Okay. 43 receptions, 618 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not insane eye-popping numbers, but he's been having a hell of a season. You got to consider who's throwing him the ball. You got Jameis Winston the first half of the season, which I don't know if people at this point are starting to consider Jameis Winston to be a good quarterback. I would call him mediocre at best.
He hasn't even played that much to even be considered a good quarterback, or even be in the conversation of a good quarterback. Like, he's just not been on the field. Well,
and he had Jameis Winston throwing him the ball for, like, I think the first 3 games of the year before Jameis Winston got hurt. Then he's been having Andy Dalton throwing him the ball, maybe even did Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill. I guarantee you he's thrown passes.
A few balls.
Yeah.
But, you know, basically what I'm saying is he's basically getting thrown to from a committee of quarterbacks that really aren't even all that great. And he's having a hell of a year. So I just think the rookie deserves his props. You know, he's on a team that not a lot of people are talking about, but I think he's having a hell of a year.
So if Breece Hall didn't get injured a couple weeks ago, he would have ran away with this award for sure. But since he suffered a season-ending injury, he's kind of out of the running, unfortunately. But he's still in consideration. So I also look at Dameon Pierce and Kenneth Walker. And Dameon Pierce has been the lead back for Houston the entire season. But Kenneth Walker has only taken over since week 4 or 5 when Rashad Penny went down. And his stats are just as good as Dameon Pierce. So I went with Kenneth Oh shoot, I should say Kenneth Runner. Remember, Kenneth Runner is my offensive rookie of the year. He has 570 total rushing yards and 7 touchdowns, with like 5 of them coming in the fourth quarter. So he's a good closing running back.
Hey,
Yeah.
clutch. Gotta get that clutch factor from your rookies. That's not a bad pick, man.
So who do you got for defensive rookie of the year?
Man, the guy with the secret sauce.
I think it's gonna be the same. We're gonna have the same pick.
You got to give it to Sauce, man. I mean, the dude is coming out just going nuts. He doesn't look like a rookie, man. He looks like a tenured vet with the way that he's playing.
And they're treating him like a 10-year vet. They're treating this rookie cornerback like Darrelle Revis. They're not even throwing him the ball, throwing the ball his way.
Man, and I don't blame him one bit. I mean, he's leading the league in deflected passes. I wouldn't throw to him either. I mean, the fact that too, just as a Packer fan, losing to the Jets and then seeing this dude walk off the field with a cheese head on. I mean, this dude's a dog, man. This dude has that dog mentality.
It's crazy because I thought he would be one of the biggest busts in the draft because he was. Has he even let up a touchdown yet? He was famous in college for never allowing a touchdown in all of his career. And we're going into week 10, and I don't think he's allowed a touchdown yet. I remember saying outside of after the draft, I thought he would be one of the biggest busts because he never had to deal with letting up a touchdown and being scored on. And so you have that mentality of being the best in college. You're not the best in the NFL. That was my original thought. But he's definitely he's top 5 already as a rookie. In one of the most difficult positions to play in the NFL. Being a rookie cornerback takes about 2 to 3, maybe 4 years of development before you actually hit your stride, hit your prime. This guy's already a top 5 cornerback in the league.
Completely agree. I mean, hell, you watch a rookie get burned and you literally just like, he's a rookie, he needs time, yada, yada. I mean, rookie cornerbacks, maybe more than any other position in the league, is like, okay, he's going to suck when he comes in. Just give him some time, let him breathe, let him get a feel for the speed of the game. Sauce is looking like he knows what the hell he's doing. That's for sure.
Some other guys that I had in consideration, even though it was pretty much a landslide in Sauce's favor, was Tariq Woolen, the cornerback for Seattle, who's tied for second in the league with interceptions. So on paper, you may say that Tariq Woolen deserves this because he's got the better stats. But like I said, people aren't even throwing to Sauce. They're throwing to Tariq Woolen because they don't know who he is. They're learning who he is now.
Right.
But I'm still giving it to Sauce Gardner.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure Sauce only has like 2 interceptions on the year, but that's a very misleading stat. You can't look at, looking at interceptions to judge who the best corner is can't always tell you the true story because the fact of the matter is a lot of these corners just aren't getting the ball thrown to them.
Yeah. And you'll never see guys like Jalen Ramsey or Darrelle Revis lead the league in interceptions. It's always some guys like Alteron Werner had it 1 year. Tim Jennings had it 1 year. I think maybe it's always unnamed guys that win this accolade of having the most interceptions. It's never the number 1 corner. It's always a slot corner or the number 2 or some guy who's just had a really good season.
It's kind of one of those things too, where it's like if you're a head coach and you let the best corner on the other team get a pick, it's like a double stab because it's like, dude, you shouldn't be throwing on that guy.
Yeah.
Like,
Coach of the year. I think there's a lot of candidates, and I wrote down like 6 names, but I want to know who you chose first.
So I don't know if this is a hot take. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. I just feel like he deserves credit. Robert Saleh, man. I mean, I feel like the way that he has turned the Jets around, the Jets are a legit team. And yes, this is me talking after they just beat the Bills. I mean, you look at the teams that they've played this year, the teams that they've beat this year. I mean, what they got a 6-3 record. I mean, they're looking pretty damn good, man. They are on the up and up. And he's a defensive-minded head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Sauce Gardner, defensive rookie of the year. I mean, maybe there's something to that, man. I mean, I think Saleh is turning that organization around. I think they're a legit threat in years to come. Maybe not so much this year, but I think in years to come they will be. They got a little quarterback situation.
All they need is a quarterback.
Right. They got to figure that part out. But I think in terms of a well-coached team, I mean, hell, you could even use that more to his advantage. They're 6-3. They don't really have a good solidified quarterback.
Mhm.
He's rearing that team to get some wins. I think Robert Saleh as of right now is my candidate.
Yeah. He was on my list, as well as Brian Dable, Nick
Yeah.
Sirianni. I think these guys you have to look into them for
Mhm.
certain. Kevin O'Connell, I think it's incredible what he's done with that offense and that team. 6-1, 7-1, whatever their one loss
Yeah.
is pretty impressive. But man, I got to go with the guy that wasn't even on anybody's radar at the beginning of the season, Pete Carroll. This man, this man took a team that was projected to have like the first or second or third overall pick. He's leaving that division, and he's going to go to the postseason. I
Yeah.
guarantee it. He's
Yeah.
taking Geno Smith and Kenneth Walker runner to the postseason. It's incredible. Like all these, like Sirianni, you kind of expected him to have not this good of a season, but a good season. Brian Dable has a pedigree behind him. Kevin O'Connell has. You can make the argument that he doesn't deserve it because he inherited such a great offense. But you look at nobody expected this Seattle team to be any good this year.
Not
Yet
at all.
they're winning their division and have a winning record.
Not at all. I mean, in fact, I'm sure a lot of people are kind of sitting there thinking, okay, Pete Carroll stays in Seattle numbered, not really so much because he's a bad coach, but I mean, shit, he's like the oldest coach in the league. Russell Wilson's leaving. Kind of
Hmm.
seems like that era is coming down to a close. Hell,
Not anymore.
maybe he's saying, I'm not going anywhere, fellas.
Yeah. That's a good transition into my comeback player of the year, Geno Smith, man. Like, so, the only other person I looked at was either maybe Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley, because
Yeah.
both Derrick Henry had the injury and now he's balling off with another LeBron James type of esque season. And Saquon Barkley, everybody thought his career was pretty much over due to injuries and being on a defunct offense.
Right.
But Geno Smith, man, this guy was a backup for like the last 7 years, and now he's coming in. And I almost had him in my MVP talk.
Dude, I have him as my comeback player of the year as well. Before this episode, before we even started airing, I literally said, I don't understand how anybody could not have this guy as their comeback player of the year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you start writing down his stats though, 2,000 plus yards, 15 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. I mean, technically, I'm looking at my own sheet of paper and I'm thinking he has better stats than Jalen Hurts, and I have Jalen Hurts as my MVP.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, dude, he's having an incredible year. The Seahawks, to me, are one of the most shocking teams I've seen in a while. Just in terms of, like I said, I mean, this team had second, third overall pick written all over them. You figured they're going to be terrible. They're not. And you're right. They're going to go to the playoffs at this point. I mean, how can they not with an NFC this bad? Um, I think too, in terms of comeback player of the year, when you look at players like Saquon and Derrick Henry, I know that they will factor injuries into the decision, but it felt like for players like Saquon and Derrick, if they come back healthy, you know they're going to ball. You know that they have the talent and the skill to be good in this league. We've seen it before. Then they got injured. You can expect, like, okay, fully healthy, they're going to ball. Geno Smith's career was dead in the water. I mean, who the hell ever thought Geno Smith was going to have a resurgence? Not me. I figured it was just like, hey, career backup at this point. We're always going to remember him as the guy who got socked in the jaw because he didn't want to go to one of his teammates' events. Not anymore. I mean, the guy's making a new name for himself. Good for him. I mean, this to me is the definition of a comeback player. I mean, my God.
So we're also going to make our picks for who we think will make it to the Super Bowl. Who do you have?
Well, AFC side, it's the Bills. I just don't see anybody. I mean, yeah, the Chiefs and Bills are going to play in the playoffs again. That's about as predictable as, I mean, hell, that the sun's going to come up the next day. I mean, they are going to play in the playoffs. I don't know anybody that can really stop those two teams, but I think at the end of the day, the Bills are the better team. I always get a little anxious whenever a team beats a team in the regular season and has to play again in the playoffs. It's hard to beat teams twice.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think the Bills will eke it out. On the NFC side, I don't think the Eagles are going to make the Super Bowl. I think the problem with the Eagles' schedule this year, it's a gift and curse. They have the easiest schedule in the league on paper.
Yeah.
They're probably going to roll into the playoffs with 1 loss, 2 losses. I don't think they'll be undefeated. If they do, holy shit. I think they're gonna get smacked in the mouth by a team in the playoffs. I don't know by who. I don't. It's hard to really predict the NFC as a whole, but as of right now, I think if I had to go with a team that seems like they're clicking on all cylinders, it's the Cowboys. As much as that makes me want to throw up in my mouth,
Hmm.
their offense is clicking. Dak Prescott looked pretty decent, and yes, that is just off of one little game against the Bears. 2 games into coming back out off of an injury.
Hmm.
So yes, that could change. You could go back to being mediocre. Cowboys defense to me is probably one of the best in the league, if not the best in the league. So I think if you can combine an offense that seems to be clicking, putting up 40 points on a defense, which at that time still had Roquan, I mean, that's pretty impressive. So, I mean, if that offense was to put forward that kind of effort with a defense that's also going to match, right now, I think they're the team to be scared of in the NFC. Which, thank God, my 6 loss in a row Packers are about to play them this week. So,
Fresh off of a bye week, Dallas
oh
is.
yeah, yeah. We also played the Bills fresh off of a bye. I mean, maybe this week was just like this year was just meant for disaster. What
I
about
don't
you?
want to be a contrarian, but I didn't pick any of the top teams. I didn't pick the Chiefs. I didn't pick the Bills. I didn't pick the Eagles. It's so hard to make the Super Bowl, and I think we've been spoiled because Tom Brady has done it nearly every year in his prime. But it's hard to get to back to the Super Bowl. The Chiefs are showing it. They haven't been to the Super Bowl in the last 3 years, I don't think. So I think we're gonna have
Who
another.
are you telling? Who are you telling?
I think we're gonna have kind of a similar Super Bowl like we did last year. We're gonna have a couple surprise teams make it. I think we got Miami and the Vikings. I just think those two teams are gonna they're the like you said with Philly, they've had kind of an easy schedule. I think they're gonna get popped in the mouth and get humbled a little bit.
Yeah.
I think I don't know who's going to win, but I think Miami has definitely the offense to compete with the Bills and the Chiefs. They already beat the Bills
Yeah.
with a half dead Tua. That was his first game when he got popped. He came back into the game and was playing with a concussion,
Right.
basically. I think it's going to be Miami and Minnesota.
I don't think that's a bad take. Miami, I agree with you more. I think the Vikings, and I used to get so mad about this in 2019 with LaFleur's first year. Whenever we went 13-3 that year, but every single week we would win. It was always fraud team, luckiest team I've ever seen. Not a real 13-3 team. Worst 13-3 team I've ever seen, if that really exists. And here I am, I guess, in 2022, kind of feeling that way about the Vikings. Yes, they're 7-1. Got to give credit where credit is due because getting a 7-1 is really freaking hard in this league. But my God, are every single one of those wins real shaky if you really look at them. I mean, they got a lot of last-second wins against opponents that, frankly, aren't all that great. They kind of feel like another team where once they get to the playoffs, they're going to get 49ers like the Packers did that one year.
Yeah, and well, you look at the NFC, somebody's got to win it.
Right.
I think the top teams are the Vikings, the Eagles, and like you said, the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
I think it's either going to be one of those three. And I just realized that me having Miami and Minnesota, it's two rookie head coaches I have going to the Super Bowl.
This year,
I
though,
did
that's not much of a hot take, though, because how many rookie head coaches are there this year?
9 or 10 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, man. It's going to come down to it, but I think ultimately, if I have to pick a winner right now, I still think the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl. That's still
Oh,
my
they're
take.
the
Yes,
favorite
that's
for
not a
sure,
hot
but
take. Yeah,
they're the
I
favorite for sure. But how often does the favorite ever win?
not often,
Yeah.
not often at all. So I could definitely see something happening. Just one of those things, though, where it's like, my God, one of these years the Bills have got to win a Super Bowl. Why not this year?